Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Niger once again, and welcome back to System Shock Radio. Oh, uh, oh, uh, I got a very interesting, very special topic for you guys, and admittedly, I kind of was debating what I necessarily wanted to talk about. There were some ideas I definitely had, but I decided I would store those away in the vault for another time. But today, I figured I would ask a very interesting question. A question that's been on people's minds for quite a bit now, I'm sure. What is the best and worst eras of pro wrestling? As a pro wrestling fan, and I've been at the mountaintop and I've been in the trenches, and we're definitely going to see both. And admittedly, this question isn't quite as black and white as it may seem. Of course, pro wrestling has gone through a lot of change and a lot of evolutions and everything throughout the years. But what was their best periods and what was their worst periods? Let's talk about it. But of course, before we get into that, if you are indeed new here, welcome. And we do talk about a variety of things, including, of course, pro wrestling and also some nerd stuff. We do some inspiration and so all kinds of stuff. So if you do go on to enjoy, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are returning, welcome back, of course. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Oh, I guess we'll start with the worst first. So, what was the worst eras in pro wrestling? And I feel like when people discuss that, there's usually a number of answers, but two definitely stand out in terms of where people decide to rank them and talk about them. So the first elect that I have that we will discuss is the new generation era, and this is one I think I personally, this is just me. I personally believe this is the worst era in pro wrestling in history. For a few reasons, and so. To really explore this, we gotta take you back. I take you back to around the golden era. More so, what brought about the end of the golden era, which was a couple things. For starters, there's there was a steroid scandal. There was a steroid scandal involving Vince McMahon, and I talked about that in my in a crime analysis way back when, and back in 2020, around Thanksgiving time. So if you haven't already, go check out that crime analysis. I might have to do an updated one nowadays, but yeah. So there was the steroid scandal, but then there was the fact that the biggest stars from the golden era, of course, the Rock and Wrestling Connection, stuff like that. The establishment of the Big Four/5, that being King of the Ring, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. We're gone. No Hulk Hogan, no Macho Man, no Ultimate Warrior, or etc. So they moved on to other things, especially Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, would move on to the greener pastures of WCW. Well, they were greener at the time, but they moved on to the greener pastures of WCW. The Ultimate Warrior would also join the fold in 1998 and gave us that absolute all-time stinker with Hollywood Hogan at Halloween Havoc, which is a topic for another time. And by another time, I mean another review, which I did. I reviewed that match last year for Awful Month. If you haven't already, go check out that review. But with these stars out, with these huge stars out, who would be left to fill the void left behind by them? It was time to pivot it to the newer stars for a newer generation. And here's the thing about the double-edged sword, and you'll find out why I consider this probably to be the worst era. The thing is when it comes to the new generation era, the talent was definitely there. This was the era where guys like Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels really started to ascend into the main event scene, into the upper echelon, into the World Championship picture, into the main event slot. And even The Undertaker. Yes, The Undertaker had came in 1990, which is still technically the golden era, but really, especially making his rise within the new generation era as well. So the talent was definitely there. the problem was that at all the, and this is why I consider it to be one of the worst, or well, one of the reasons, and you'll find out the other. But it seems like WWE was making all the wrong decisions. Of all the people to pop the WWF title on, they popped it on Diesel, aka Kevin Nash. Now, of course, no disrespect to Kevin Nash, but wasn't necessarily a needle mover for a lot of people. The joke was that WWE was failing because they were trying to run on Diesel power, and it wasn't really working out. It didn't really click, like, unfortunately, as WWE champion. Now, and again, no disrespect to Kevin Nash, but I think kind of the byproduct of hey, we're showing all this newer talent, and all these more athletic guys. Oh, but then we're gonna pop the WWE Championship on this guy, on Diesel. I keep saying no disrespect, even though it sounds like a lot of disrespect. But a lot of people weren't really connecting with Diesel as WWE champion. Unfortunately, and of course pushing guys like Mabel as well, who has a very big, very slow, but also notorious for injuring a lot of people. He was Nia Jax before Nia Jax made it cool, but and the other reason I would say this is, and this is the segue part, those reasons are probably why the business was at an all-time low, which is the other reason why the New Generation era is looked down on so poorly, and why I personally do consider it to be the worst era is because the business was in dire straits. Not even just in WWE, but in WCW as well. I mentioned those greener pastures, but those greener pastures had died out by this time because things weren't clicking in WCW either. Or they were going for a lot of the cheesier Saturday morning cartoon-esque storylines and stuff like that, such as like the Dungeon of Doom and stuff like that around this time, but sadly, that wasn't panning out well either. So things were definitely down. 1995 is considered by many people probably one of the worst years in pro wrestling, and those were definitely the dark ages. You talk about the trenches nowadays, or the trenches from like wait, like back in the day, like 2017 or so. Show for all those people who are saying that, yeah, some of those were trench worthy, but for all those people saying that, show them the stuff going on in 1995, where the business was just in absolute dire straits. It's thankfully we'll get into more of it, and I think you know where this is going when I talk about the best eras, but thankfully they were able to pull themselves out of it. WCW was able to do it with of course, the NWO and stuff like that, Hulk Hogan turning heel, becoming Hollywood Hogan, stuff like that, and WWE did it with their own response, WWE/WWF. I might interchange between the two. So they had their response, but yeah, so the New Generation era, and that's the other thing, is that you have the main event guys. Almost everything else was incredibly cheesy and incredibly dumb. A lot of goofy gimmicks, such as like the day job gimmicks, or face Doink the Clown, not heel Doink the Clown, not cool Matt Bourne heel Doink the Clown, bordering almost on like Joker stuff, type stuff, but face Doink the Clown. Putting all their eggs in the wrong basket is why I consider the New Generation era to be the worst era, perhaps. But there is another era that people kind of point to, that being the PG era. Now, the thing is, at least the business was kind of in a better spot with the PG era, although sadly not always. But the thing about the PG era, what really ruined it, I would say, is the storyline. And again, similar to, and it's funny that these two eras are considered kind of the worst eras because they're pretty similar. Just like the New Generation era, the PG era had talent. And that 2008-2009 roster, a lot of people will talk about it, but it is the case. That 2008-2009 roster might very well be one of like the best rosters in WWE history, probably bar none. John Cena, CM Punk, JBL, Finley, MVP, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Edge, Randy Orton, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. You almost like like perhaps some of the creme de la creme at the time, at least. It's some of like the creme de la creme. People kind of carrying over from like the ruthless aggression era. People were still around from like the areas previous, and some newer stars, at least in terms of like WWE. He the talent was there, but the storylines, some of the cheesiest stuff imaginable, trying to throw as much against the wall, all that to see what stuck, but nothing really did. Some examples, if I can name a few, is the burial of the Nexus, NXT, the early game show version of NXT, People Power, that being John Laurinaitis, his heel Michael Cole, the anonymous Raw GM, which was one of the things powering heel Michael Cole. Oh yeah, it was rough times. Probably the worst incarnation of D-Generation X. Like, things were definitely on the downturn, or when it comes to that. And people, well, this is when people really start to step away from the product. People weren't watching the product as much anymore, and it definitely showed. Like WWE definitely took a hit. And I'm talking about and I am mentioning like the best and worst eras in pro wrestling, but I'm also mainly talking about WWE. At least other companies were kind of doing good stuff as well. Oh, Ring of Honor was doing its thing. TNA had the answers until they didn't. And thanks again to Hulk Hogan. And although he wasn't alone in that, but that PG era in WWE sadly was rough. Now, I won't say it's rough because it was PG and more so catered to kids, because there's plenty of kids, there's plenty of things catered to kids that are fun to watch and enjoyable. And on the flip side, there's plenty of things catered to adults that really aren't great. A lot of people rant and rave about stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Bluey, stuff more so geared towards kids. So it's not that it was geared towards kids that really made it not great. It was the quality. Like whether you're PG, no PG, whether you have a bunch of blood and you don't have a bunch of blood, whether you have a bunch of cursing, not a bunch of cursing, if the product isn't interesting or compelling, it's not going to go anywhere. And sadly, that was one of the things marring the PG era. Like, if it was PG, if it was more so catered towards kids, but the product was interesting and they had good storylines and good storytelling, the PG era wouldn't be looked as negatively on as it was. But sadly, that was the case, and a lot of those storylines that have scarred our wrestling childhoods, sadly live and exist within the PG era. And again, a lot of the wrong decisions. Why did Super Cena rule for as long as he did? The world may never know, but yeah. So those two eras are considered to be some of the worst. But what are some of the best? As well, the first, as I kind of alluded to, and I think the reason it coming off the new generation era and revitalizing the business as a whole, the first elect for the best eras in WWE / pro wrestling is gotta give it to the Attitude Era, of course. The Attitude Era literally saved the business, and across both companies. Is not only was WCW doing what it was doing with the NWO, but the Attitude Era, essentially WWE / WF fighting back when it comes to the Attitude Era, where a lot of now household names really made their rise, such as like Triple H or Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock. Fun, entertaining, and absolutely chaotic nowhere, but it was a lot of fun. The Attitude Era, literally turning the business around, winning in the Monday Night Wars as WWE fought WCW, and and the fact that it was so short, or it's pretty short in the grand scheme of things, lasting from about 1997 to about 2001. That's not a whole lot of time. But it was an important across both companies is obviously we saw WCW saw the implosion of WCW, and there's a reason why there's no WCW network nowadays. But WWE with the Attitude Era, and just these words even won't do it justice how fantastic the Attitude Era was. And I think other than that, I think the other reason, and not just like the naughty language and stuff like that, but also the compelling storylines within the Attitude Era. Austin versus McMahon / Austin versus a corporation, and where we see ourselves. Obviously, I wasn't alive yet. I was towards like 2000, 2001, but nevertheless, I wasn't alive yet. But Austin pretty much representing everybody who feels like they're under the corporate thumb, or had and wish they could fight back against their corporate overlords. At least in terms of storyline, and I'm sure part of it in real life for some people, but nevertheless, as Austin being represented there, Austin being over as hell, charismatic as hell, The Rock being able to do his thing, going from absolutely hated, loathed, die Rocky die, by being the white meat blue chipper babyface, to joining Nation Domination, really breaking out as a star. Becoming a bona fide main eventer, a certified future Hall of Famer, or the Undertaker going through one of his best incarnations, and becoming more edgy. The introduction of Kane, and Mick Foley doing Mick Foley things. Even the McMahon kids getting involved and being a part of major storylines, for better or for worse, but stuff like that. Even Triple H's rise is to the top as well. The Attitude Era pretty much had it all. And the other era I would say is perhaps one of the best is this era, the era that we're currently in when it comes to pro wrestling. And I mentioned it before, a little while back on the channel. This might be one of, if not the best era to be a wrestling fan. It truly feels like wrestling is back. Like, for the first time, people are getting interested in the product again. The product feels fresh. It feels refreshing. People want to watch it again, and the talent is certainly there, and it feels like the voices of the fans are being heard. The storylines are compelling, and whether it be the Bloodline storyline, Cody Rhodes finishing his story, etc. And And one thing you'll notice between the Attitude Era, and I mentioned these eras have a lot in common. One thing you'll notice between both the Attitude Era and this current era is that competition does breed success when it comes to WWE. As much as people want to knock AEW, as much as people want to hate on AEW, who and stuff like that. First of all, I'm not one of those people. I do really love AEW. Sometimes, but the other thing is that AEW for a while did seem like they had the answers. And who knows? It was if Vince McMahon had stayed in charge, or if the hands of fate didn't work the way they did. And by hands of fate, I mean Vince McMahon allegedly, of course, doing what he did. It's worth mentioning these are still, for the most part, allegations for now. If it wasn't for Vince McMahon doing what he did and being ousted and Triple H coming in, then who knows? Maybe AEW would still have the answers. But WWE going into fight back mode, fighting back. Triple H now in charge, introducing all these new things, building some newer stars, giving stars that people want to see push for a bit, who might not have gotten the push under Vince McMahon, giving them new life, breathing new life back into them, to the point where now stars from AEW are jumping ship over to WWE when previously it was the other way around. This era really feels so refreshing, and it's fantastic to see. Yeah, of course, there's wishing all the success and everything to AEW as well. But it is worth mentioning, like I said, for WWE, they definitely do the best when their backs are against the wall. That when WWE's back is against the wall, and they have real competition that really comes in and really threatens them, that's when we get the best version of WWE, and that's definitely what we're seeing now. But nevertheless, that I think is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. And let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this episode of System Shock Radio, and what do you think is the best and worst eras in WWE, in pro wrestling, what have you. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Ooh, real quick. Hey, before you click off the video, I just want to let you know, something real quick. Hey, of course, I didn't upload Tales from Labyrinth on Thursday. Hey, I uploaded a different video instead, and I think I'm gonna like be mainly stepping away from daily uploads. I'm trying not to go too long without an upload, but I think definitely want to if I'm not feeling up to uploading, I won't for the day. But hey, yeah, oh uh oh so I think I'm gonna take that approach. But because we missed Tales from the Labyrinth on Thursday, we're gonna release it tomorrow, and tomorrow's gonna be a double feature. So we're gonna have Tales from the Labyrinth, and in the morning that'll be uploaded at 8 a.m. And then later on in the night, we will finally, after a lot of waiting from me at least, hopefully from you guys as well. But after a lot of waiting, we will finally get to review AEW Dynasty. Excuse me. Don't worry. Double or Nothing will still go as planned and everything. But nevertheless, has just had to throw that in here in the video anyway. But real quick. But thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.